I don't know what she does in her spare time, or if she's got any. Ladies and gentlemen, Trish Barbato.
Thank you so much, Fred. I'm so honored and delighted to be here with this wonderful group. I thought that what I would do today is a number of things. We're going to just start with a little bit. I'm just going to tell you a story about why I started with Shambhala, and then we'll just move on. I want to tell you a little bit about the history of Shambhala. Sorry. Thank you. So I'll just tell you just quickly, I started with Shambhala in the year 2000, and it was really interesting why I did that. It's because I had a performance review at my job, and it was like generally good, other than the part that needed to be improved is that people were basically terrified of talking to me and very intimidated by me. And so my boss was like, yeah, you should work on that. And my first reaction was like, who said that? It's like outrageous, that's ridiculous that the person said that. So you can see how maybe there was a blind spot that I didn't notice. And at first I tried to ignore this piece of feedback, but I couldn't ignore it. It just was running around in my mind over and over and over again. And I thought, like, what is with that? What is that about? And it was sort of like such a wonderful opportunity to say, I need to figure this out because I don't like that about me. I didn't even realize that was me. And it sort of started me off on a journey of discovery. And I tried to do a lot of things. I went through all kinds of different spiritual kind of trials, and I did business. I really was trying to find something. And in fact, Shambhala is where I landed. And I went to the center, and I actually, kind of like signed up for a meditation course. And I left there screaming, basically, because I couldn't stand it. I lasted for about an hour, and I couldn't deal with kind of sitting and meditating. And I kept doing this because for whatever reason, something in my head was telling me, this is go do this, it's going to help you. And so I would go to a course and kind of get halfway through and then run away. And finally I got through the entire course. And so, almost 20 years later, I'm kind of deeply embedded. I'm a meditation instructor. So all to say that meditation, mindfulness training for me transformed my entire life. Transformed the way I work, the way I lead, transformed the way I have relationships, and it was really, really impactful. And so in many ways, I'm always so grateful to be able to talk to people about, not necessarily Shambhala, but just the idea of a journey, a path, and finding your path, and whatever that might be, because it will be transformational. So that's enough about me, and let's just keep going here. So I wanted to talk a little bit about the history of Shambhala, and the history of Shambhala starts with this gentleman. His name is Trungpa Trungpa Rinpoche. He's a Tibetan Lama, and he was in Tibet when in 1959 there was a huge uprising against the Chinese, and it was very tragic. And the Dalai Lama, Trungpa Trungpa, who was 20 at the time, they actually went through a very harrowing journey across the Himalayas in order to get to safety in India. And so many of including the Dalai Lama, Trungpa Trungpa Rinpoche, and many others, found themselves there and then started working on their path. He ended up going to England. He went and studied in Oxford. He was actually kind of obsessed about this idea of bringing secular teachings to the world, and particularly to the West. He had started thinking about this even when he was in Tibet, so he would have been under the age of 20, and these teaching, the idea of this was already in his mind. He actually started writing about it, but all of those teachings were lost in this journey. And so Trungpa Trungpa kind of changed his life. He got rid of his robes. He tried to, really understand the culture, and he landed in North America in the late 60s, early 70s. Well, what was going on then? We had, basically he attracted hippies. He attracted a small group of people who were open-minded enough to listen to a man who was talking about mindfulness training and meditation, and nobody was talking about that at that time, but it was kind of cool and funky, and so he attracted a small group. And so in fact, Shambhala is quite young in a way. It's only been around since the early 1970s, and while the traditions are steeped in Buddhism, in this in particular, the Shambhala teachings are really meant for anyone. And in fact, the reason that I kind of, when I sort of went around, I bought this book, and I was just saying to Fred, I never reread books, and I've probably reread this several times. And this book kind of caught me in its first paragraph, which I'm going to read to you. The Shambhala teachings are founded on the premise that there is basic human wisdom that can help solve the world's problems. This wisdom does not belong to any one culture or any one religion, nor does it come only from the East or from the West. Rather, it is a tradition of human warriorship that has existed in many cultures at many times throughout history. And that really intrigued me. It intrigued me about this idea of oneness, that no one's right, in a way, that there is something very common across humankind. And that is this wisdom, this basic goodness. And that, in fact, when we think about traditions, there are traditions in the Aboriginal culture around when you think of a warrior. And so maybe the idea of warriorship is like thinking about taking courage and confidence and kindness and being able to ground that in your body. And it's not that this belongs to someone else, it actually is within each of us. We all have it. We all have natural courage, natural kindness, and we have the ability to believe in that, to not be afraid of who we are, and to take that and open it up out into the world. So to let go of our fear, to let go of shame, to let go of grief, to let go of a lot of things that can protect us, we think, or hold us back, and sort of let the raw human being that we are go out into the world. And this is the kind of idea of human warriorship. And so we might think of King David or King Lear or some of the Japanese, emperors and that sort of thing. And this all sounds fine and everything, but I also wanted to share a story with you, what I thought was another a real demonstration of this with my CEO. So we're a big company, and we have two corporate offices, as it were. One is in Cambridge and one is in Mississauga. Last week we announced that we were merging those two offices into one office in Mississauga, which from a business perspective makes total sense. I mean, we're saving time, money, efficiency, etc. Very nice. How do you think that went over with the Cambridge people? Right, it was horrible. It was like you just wanted to curl up and like cover your head. So I was at this meeting where we had called everyone together. There's 200 employees that work in our Cambridge office. And they were kind of all excited because they thought we were announcing an acquisition or something. And in fact, my boss, the CEO, had to stand up in front of them and tell them what was happening. And I think, those are like those moments where that warriorship principle comes to life. Because you are delivering a message, which he did, with strength and confidence of what the decision is, and that it's the right decision, along with the compassion and the empathy and the kindness that is required, and the support and all of the things that were put in place immediately for that group of 200 to be able to manage and absorb it. And so that could have been done horribly, and in fact it was done really well. And I feel like in everyday life, every day when we make a decision about how we're going to interact with someone, how we're going to deal with something at work, we have this choice, this moment where we can say, okay, how can I deal with this? What words can come out of my mouth that will support this being going in the best direction possible. And that's where the rubber hits the road, isn't it? That is where the rubber, everything's nice right now. Look at all of you. You're nice, you're good, you're calm, everything's wonderful. We love each other. It's good. And then, you could go outside and you're driving and someone like totally cuts you off. Or you could get an email from a colleague that is like full of misinformation and makes you look really badly. And all of a sudden you're like, oh my goodness. Or someone that you love gets diagnosed with cancer. Like, these are real things that happen in our life. And when we think about Shambhala, there's actually a story that I'm really terrible with this story. I need, my banana. So the story of Shambhala also has in it the story of the kingdom of Shambhala. And in some ways, it doesn't really matter if it's true or not true, fiction, non-fiction. It doesn't actually matter. This is the story of the kingdom of Shambhala. The kingdom of Shambhala was its first king, Dawasampo, was said to have gone to the Buddha, and I'm improvising a little bit here. Basically, he said, okay, Buddha, look, I'm running a kingdom. I don't have time to sit in a cave all day and meditate. I've got my kingdom to run. So what can we do? Like, what can we do to help me be a better leader? And it is said that the Buddha gave the king the Shambhala teachings. The teachings were what he empowered the king to go back to the kingdom. And the story is that he went back to the kingdom of Shambhala, and he, taught people mindfulness, and he kind of ruled in this way, and the entire kingdom became enlightened. And that, sometimes we think about enlightened, nobody was flying in the air, no weird things were happening. It was still a kingdom. So what does that mean? That means that people still suffered. People still died. People still had personality clashes with their colleagues at work. All these normal things, this is all normal. All these normal things happened in that kingdom. And what was different is that the citizens of Shambhala were able to interact with life in a way that was dignified, that was uplifted, that was open. And that's what made it this kingdom of Shambhala. And so this is kind of like the tradition or the story, and the Shambhala teachings are very secular, and that's what they're about. They're about trying to find that basic human wisdom, that basic goodness in each person, and helping everyone to open that up so that you can deal with life on a normal basis. And yes, great. And then just quickly, currently, so Chimru Trungpa passed away. This is his son. He is the current spiritual head of the Shambhala tradition. And Sakyam Mipam Rinpoche, who I've had the pleasure to meet on several occasions, he has a lovely family, a beautiful wife. He's run 9 marathons. He's written 5 or 6 books. One of them is actually called Running with the Mind of Meditation. And so he's interesting because he crosses both East and West. He was born in the East, he was schooled in the West, he goes back and forth frequently. And so again, he's been really being able, I think, to increase the kind of growth of Shambhala, as it were, which has been very, very organic. And then kind of just briefly, yes, thank you, Fred, on the next slide. So Shambhala right now has a number of centers around the world. I think it's in over 50 countries. And what's interesting about Shambhala is that it's very organic, and I can just tell you my own personal story. So I was at the Toronto Shambhala Center. I had a dream that I was supposed to open a center. I'm not kidding, this has really happened, and I'm not one of these people that believes in anything like this. So I woke up at 3 o'clock in the morning, and I texted my colleague in Toronto and said, Debbie, do you want to start a center in Mississauga? And the next morning I was like, haha, Trish, that's really funny. Like, no, really, no, I'm not, it wasn't a question, actually, we're doing it, we just got to figure out how to do it. And so, in fact, over the last number of years, we've opened about 7 Shambhala, either small groups, that again, are just teaching people how to meditate. to start off. It's just very basic. So there's one in the Waterloo, Wellington area. There's one we started in Richmond Hill, in Oshawa, in Owen Sound, in Hamilton, and there's a number of other ones that are percolating, and so I was able to start those. And there's people like me kind of all over the world that kind of wake up one day and say, we have to start one of these, and we have to help people find a path, just give them a start. So I wanted to talk a little bit about that principle of basic human wisdom, and these are all quotes from Chigma Trungpa Rinpoche. If we are willing to take an unbiased look, we will find that in spite of all our problems and confusion, all our emotional and psychological ups and downs, there is something basically good about our existence as human beings. And I think it's kind of like profound in a way. It means that it's really grounding us in being able to see through confusion or emotional. And I'll just give you another example for myself. I have a partner. He's wonderful. I love him. He is a Trump supporter. I am open, and I really want to try and stay open to this idea, but it's hard. Do you see what I mean? This is the part that I'm talking about. This is where the rubber hits the road, right? This is where the rubber hits the road. Everything's fine when it's fine. If you think like me, we're going to be good. Everything's going to be great if you think like me. If you do the things I want you to do them, everything's going to be fantastic. Problem is in life, that is not what actually happens. Everyone has a different point of view. Everyone has a different perspective of how to do things. And although we think we're open, when we are confronted with a view or something that is really not the way we want it done, or not the way we think it should be, or not the way we like it, or out of our comfort zone, stuff comes up like vroom, right? Like he tells me he's supporting Trump, I'm like, wah, what? Don't tell anybody that. Don't talk about it. Don't go to a dinner party and mention that to anyone. That's what I told him. Just zip up. And I really had to reflect about this. I have to really, hey, Trish, it's a different point of view that I can't accept, and now I'm pissed off. Right? This is just a practical example of what happens to us in life. It happens to us in our workplace. It can happen to us with our spouse. These are day-to-day things. I find it's like everyone wants peace, but it's hard when you're not peaceful to see that you're not being peaceful. When you're having an argument and you're raising your voice and you're yelling, it's hard to remember that, oh yeah, I believe in peace. So this is the thing that's hard. And what I think this practice is about is really starting to open up our awareness, really starting to kind of work with day-to-day activities, things that are happening in our life all the time, and just pausing to see, this is what's happening, this is my reaction to it. Those two things don't have to be the same thing, right? I can wake up in the morning and the birds are chirping and the sun is shining, and I was like, wow, this is an awesome day, woohoo. Or I've been up all night because my kid is sick and the sun is blaring in my eyes, and those freaking birds, I am going to kill them all if I hear one more peep out of them. What, has the thing changed? The thing has not changed. The sun and the birds have not changed. It is my reaction that has changed. They're not the same. It's not that I wake up and it's a horrible day. It's I woke up and I've chosen for it to be a horrible day. So that's hard. Believe me. I have been on this journey for almost 20 years. I am still struggling, like my darn boyfriend, and the freaking, what is he doing thinking about that Trump? So it's hard, it's hard, and you constantly have to work on it. It is a journey. But it's also very beautiful. So I wanted to make this a bit interactive. So what I thought was, can you sit beside someone, or find someone to chat with, please. So find someone to chat with, and if you don't have someone beside you easily, come in. Yeah. Who does not have someone to chat with? You have to do this. Like, it's gonna be fun. You're gonna love it. Does everyone have, who does not have someone to chat with? Come up to the front. I know you like being in the back. You can't be in the back. I get a part you. Okay? All right. So this is really good. This is also about communication. Another thing, I have like a list. You know, people write New Year's Eve things. I write them all the time. Like, and one of them is listening. It's a hard one. So this is really great because, sorry, back to the question. This is, I'm going to give you each a few minutes. So what you have to do when the other person is speaking is you have to listen. So try not to interrupt. Try not to interject. Try to say nothing. Just listen. There might be pauses. That's okay. Try to sit in silence, which is also hard. Okay? So let your person percolate their answer to this question. And I'll just give you a few minutes for one person, then we're going to switch to the other person. Does that feel okay to everyone to try this with together? Yeah? All right, and I have a little bell, so I'll tell you when you can switch person. So pick who's going to speak first. Try not to be afraid to look into each other's eyes. This is intimate. Having a conversation with a person is intimate. We've made it not intimate in our lives, but it's an intimate and beautiful thing. So let's connect. Introduce yourselves if you don't know each other. And then one person first is going to answer this question. What condition is required for me to feel confident? What condition is required for me to feel confident? Okay? Off you go. Okay, everybody. Sounds like you have some good dialogue. How was that? Did you enjoy that? Yeah? All right. Okay, wonderful. Another quote that I really like from Trigger Trumpa, a great deal of chaos in the world occurs because people don't appreciate themselves. And this is, this is like a really good quote. A lot of chaos occurs because people don't appreciate themselves. He actually, one of the things that he said when he came to the West that really shocked him about the culture is that he couldn't believe how hard people were on themselves as a culture. Like he just couldn't believe how much kind of self-loathing, self-criticism, negative thoughts that people had about themselves in their self-talk in their head. He was kind of like in shock over that. And his point on this was, well, if you don't appreciate yourself, then there is chaos in you. And so when you go out into the world, that's what will come out. If you start with yourself, if you start with a deep appreciation for who you are, warts and all, you just deeply appreciate who you are. You kind of like have a little cozy little love affair with who you are. So you kind of drop the self-talk that is not helpful. You just drop the self-criticism that is no longer helpful. You just drop it. And you take your seat. Like this is it. This is like your life. This is your body. This is the one life you have. And it's like taking your seat in your body, taking your seat in your life. He talked about, it's like riding a horse. And so you feel a lot of freedom and a lot of confidence and a lot of oneness. He had this other great quote that I really liked too. He said, oh, well, the bad news is you've fallen and there is no parachute. The good news is there is no ground. So it's kind of like that feeling, yeah, like that's it. You're out there, but on the other hand, it's okay. Like it's okay. Life is okay, I'm okay, everything is okay. We can work with this, it's all workable. So I really, really like this quote. It seemed like you guys liked that little exercise, so let's do one more. We'll squeeze one more in. So not this one, sorry, the other way. So one more time, you're getting really good speaking with your partner. So share this with your partner. I feel best about myself when. I feel best about myself when. Okay? Off you go. Let's do it. Does anybody want to share anything from either your first or conversation? Not anything like personal, but anything about the experience about talking about this, or would anyone like to share anything? All right, that's right. What was your name?
They're a very shy group.
Yeah.
VJ.
Oh, VJ. So VJ actually reminded me of a point I wanted to make. One of the things that's really interesting about trying to find this place of confidence and kindness is that it's confidence without arrogance. So it's like this really soft part that doesn't go kind of to one extreme or the other, right? It's finding that place where you are like, I think about the Dalai Lama. You know, people go and see him and they say it doesn't even matter what he said, they just feel his presence, and they feel that middle ground. They feel that middle ground of pure confidence and kindness and compassion, all in one without the person saying anything, which is pretty remarkable. Okay, so I'm going to wrap up. I have this, this is just something that, it's actually from my book, but it kind of all things influence one. This is a self-reflection exercise. I'm going to just let you pass it around and take one home. You can throw it out. If you do want to look at it, it is just a number of questions, some of which will not impact you at all. And there might be one question that you go, that's kind of sparking something in me. Seems like that might be something I could think about or reflect on a little bit. And so these are just kind of questions to open things up. So I'll just maybe like give half to you and half to you, and you can just pass them around. And yeah, there's more on this side, so if you don't have one. So I think maybe I'll stop there, and I'll just see if anyone has any questions at all about. Yes, please.
I know that a lot of mindfulness training is going into organizations, and I'm wondering with your background, and I also see connection between that and innovation, creativity, if your company has done it, or if you've influenced it at all to do any of that.
Yeah, thank you for that question. I feel like I planted that, but I didn't. I am probably the most passionate about bringing mindfulness to a workplace. I feel like workplaces are fraught with all the juicy ingredients required, you know, natural conflict, natural tension, all just, it's like all there in one spot. So yeah, that is one thing that I really am quite passionate about. So I have done several mindfulness training sessions at my workplace. I'm now working around doing it on a more regular basis. I also bring in mindfulness practices even to meetings. So I've done circle, with the talking sticks. So I've done that in meetings. I've been on boards of directors. I've used it on boards of directors, told them, please let me try this, because it was a kind of a contentious issue. I've also where people have come in really sort of rushed, and maybe that was me. Then we just take a deep breath. So we just get everybody to breathe for a few seconds. Just simple, small things, but yeah, I agree. There's also the good news is there are many organizations who are looking at this. I was just telling Fred, there's one called the Potential Project. They have a book called 1 Second Ahead, and they are all about corporations being introduced to mindfulness training. Yeah, please.
Speaking of organizations, I think that there's one in Colorado, but there's also a book publisher by the name of Shambhala. And are you connected with either?
It's all the same. Yeah, they have Naropa, they have the Mountain Shambhala Center, that's just outside of Boulder. The Shambhala Publications has all the, like Shambhala Sun is a magazine, Buddha Dharma is another magazine. Those are all magazines that come out of Shambhala.
And the publications.
And the publications. And everything. It's part of Shambhala Media. Mm-hmm.
It's big.
Yeah. And actually, interestingly, Chogyam Trungpa decided that Halifax, Canada, was the place that they should have the heart, the head office. He felt that Maritimers, who's a Maritimer? Yeah. He felt that the people in the Maritimes really kind of naturally embodied this idea of warriorship and human bravery. And he kind of chose that as the heart, the place where it's not the head office, but I don't know what to call it, the center
Moby Dick.
Yeah, exactly.
I have to agree with you.
Exactly.
Marriage is a beautiful maritime business. Another way. That's what you were talking
Oh yeah, that's what I was talking about. Okay, well, thank you all so much. It's really been a pleasure.
Dear Trish, thank you so much. How many Shambhala Warriors do we have in the room?
All of you, you're all Shambhala Warriors.
Melissa, would you come up and just present the, and say thank our speaker, okay?
Trish, it's an honor and a pleasure to finally meet you, and that you're not just a picture on a website or some words or a voice over the phone. I really have a lot out of it, and as a fellow Shambhala Warrior, I just offer this to you as an extension of the appreciation of the Shen organization and the wishing you well. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.